Admiral Heian-Wu stood in the command center of the space station, floating near Earth's moon. The large screens around him showed nothing but darkness where signals should be coming from the outer planets. For 3 days now, every message sent beyond the moon had vanished into complete silence. "Sir, we tried again to contact the mining ships near Jupiter," said Lieutenant Yunji, looking worried as she checked her computer. Still no response. It's like they just disappeared. Heian-Wu frowned and walked over to the main display. Red dots on the screen showed where their ships should be, but no signals came from any of them. The Titan research base, the Europa water miners, even the small weather stations on Mars, all silent. Captain Minho rushed into the room, his face serious. "Admiral, I have bad news. The last message we got from our people on Europa was strange. They said they saw huge energy readings coming from the edge of our solar system. Then nothing." The old admiral had commanded Earth's space forces for 20 years. He had always known this day might come, the day when humans would meet aliens who might not be friendly. Earth's leaders had made plans for this exact situation. "Start Protocol 7, Heian-Wu ordered calmly. "Tell all our ship captains to follow emergency war procedures. No more radio signals. Use only the backup communication methods we practiced." Across the solar system, human ships and stations began following the secret plans they had trained for many times. Instead of panicking, crews started preparing weapons and moving ships into defensive positions. They used laser beams to send messages to nearby ships, and small, fast ships carried written orders between distant bases. The communication blackout had been Earth's worst fear, but also something they had prepared for. Every captain knew what to do if the radio stopped working. Far beyond Pluto, where the cold of space was absolute, massive alien ships waited in the darkness. Overlord Velthok stood on the bridge of his command ship, watching Earth through powerful sensors. His tall, thin body was covered in scales that changed color with his mood, and right now they showed confident blue. "Keep blocking their radio signals," he told his crew members. "These primitive creatures will give up once they realize they are alone and cannot call for help." The Zephyrian Empire had conquered many worlds using this same trick. They would arrive at a planet, cut off all communications, then appear with their powerful fleet. Every time, the planet's people would panic and surrender without fighting. It was clean, simple, usually bloodless. Velthok had read the reports about Earth. The humans had basic space travel and simple weapons, but nothing that could threaten advanced Zephyrian technology. Their energy shields could stop any primitive attack, and their own weapons could destroy human ships from great distances. "How long until our main fleet arrives?" asked Commander Rathek, Velthek, as second in command. "2 more days," Velthok replied, his scales shifting to satisfied green. "By then the humans will be desperate and ready to surrender. We will not even need to fire our weapons." But the aliens had made a serious mistake, they thought, cutting off Earth's long-distance communications would make humans helpless and scared. Instead, it made them angry and ready to fight. On Mars, General Bioram watched as huge factories worked day and night to build weapons. The Red Planet had become Earth's main military production center, and now it was working at full speed. Machines created simple but deadly weapons, tungsten rods that could be shot at incredible speeds, and nuclear bombs that had been stored for decades. "How many kinetic rounds can we make?" she asked engineer Tae-Hyan, who was checking production. Numbers on his tablet. "At this speed, about 50,000 in the next week," he answered. "Plus we have the nuclear warheads from the lunar storage facility." Bioram smiled grimly. The aliens might have better technology, but humans had learned to make simple weapons very, very well. Sometimes the old ways worked better than fancy new methods. Back on the space station, Admiral Heian-Wu received a message through a quantum communicator, one of the few devices that could work despite the alien jamming. His communications officer, Lieutenant Soman, looked pale as she decoded the message. "Sir, we're getting reports from our scout ships. They've spotted the alien fleet. It's huge, hundreds of ships, all much larger than ours." Heian-Wu nodded slowly. He had expected this. "Send word to all our forces. Tell them to get ready." The aliens think they can scare us by cutting off our communications. They're about to learn that humans don't need radios to fight back. The Admiral looked out at the stars, knowing that somewhere in that darkness, an alien fleet was preparing to demand Earth's surrender. They had blocked humanity's signals, thinking it would make them weak and confused. The aliens were about to discover they had made a terrible mistake. Humans had been preparing for this moment for decades, and they were ready to send a different kind of message, one written in fire and metal that no jamming system could stop. Commander Jason flew his small fighter ship through the asteroid belt, using hand signals to talk with his partner, Lieutenant Soman, who flew beside him. Without long-distance radios, the human pilots had gone back to old methods that still worked. They flew close together, followed planned routes, and used mirror flashes to send simple messages. The two pilots had been watching the aliens for hours, staying hidden behind large rocks, while alien scout ships moved through the area. What they saw confused them. The alien ships were beautiful and obviously very advanced, but they seemed to be just watching and waiting instead of attacking. "Look at that," Salman signaled with her hands, pointing at an alien ship. "They could destroy our mining stations." "Easily, but they're just sitting there." Jason nodded and made notes on his paper pad. The aliens had the power to attack, but they weren't using it. He wondered what they were waiting for. Far away on the alien command ship, the Zephyrians were also confused, but for different reasons. Commander Rathek stared at his computer screens, trying to understand what the humans were doing. "Sir, the humans have launched over 3,000 ships in the last 3 days," reported a young alien officer. "Our computers predicted they would panic and fight each other when we cut their communications. Instead, they seem to be working together better than before." Rathek's scales turned orange with annoyance. Every other species they had conquered had fallen apart when their communications stopped working. Leaders would lose control of their armies. Cities would stop cooperating with each other, and chaos would spread across the planet. That's when the Zephyrians would appear and offer peace in exchange for surrender. "Keep watching them," Rathek ordered. "They cannot maintain this organization for long without their communication networks. Soon they will break down, and then we can take their world easily." But the aliens didn't understand humans very well. On Mars, the Red Planet's factories were working harder than ever before. General Bioram walked through the main production facility, watching as machines built simple but deadly weapons at incredible speed. "How are the workers handling the communication blackout?" she asked factory manager Kyunjo, who had been running the facility for 10 years. "Better than expected," he replied, wiping sweat from his forehead. "We prepared for this situation. Every worker knows their job, and we have backup plans for everything. Actually, without constant messages from Earth headquarters, we're getting more work done." The factory floor was full of activity. Huge machines stamped out, tungsten rods, simple metal spears that could punch through almost anything when shot fast enough. Other machines assembled nuclear warheads that had been designed decades ago but never used. The weapons were not fancy or high-tech, but they were reliable and deadly. General Borum picked up one of the tungsten rods. It was just a piece of metal, but when fired from a magnetic launcher at enormous speed, it could destroy the largest spaceship. "Sometimes the simple solutions are the best ones," she said to herself. Back in space, the Zephyrian scouts were getting more worried reports. Lieutenant Velka, a young intelligence officer, brought the latest information to his commander. "Sir, the human ships are not behaving as our computers predicted. They're moving in perfect formation, following complex battle plans, and their weapon production has increased by 400%. Commander Rathek's scales turned dark red with frustration. "Possible. Without communications, they should be confused and disorganized. Their leaders should have lost control by now." What the aliens didn't know was that humans had learned hard lessons from their own history. Earth's military leaders remembered times when communication failures had led to disaster, so they had created detailed backup plans for every situation. Every ship captain knew exactly what to do if the radios stopped working. Every base commander had written orders for different emergency situations. Captain Dong Hien commanded a group of destroyer ships near Jupiter. When the communication blackout started, he didn't panic. Instead, he opened his emergency orders and began following the war plan that every human officer had memorized. "Load all kinetic weapons," he told his crew. "If aliens are jamming our signals, it means they're planning to attack. We'll be ready for them." His ships moved into defensive positions around the gas giant, using predetermined patrol routes that required no radio coordination. Other human ships did the same thing throughout the solar system, creating a defensive network that the aliens had not expected. On the alien mothership, Overlord Velthok was beginning to worry. His scales had turned pale yellow, the color of uncertainty. The humans were supposed to be primitive and easy to defeat, but they were acting like experienced warriors. "Perhaps we should begin the attack now," suggested Commander Rathek. "Our shields can protect us from their simple weapons." Considered this, Zephyrian energy shields had never failed against primitive species. Human weapons were crude metal projectiles and chemical explosives, nothing that could threaten advanced alien technology. "No," he decided. "We will wait one more day. Then we will demand their surrender. When they see our full fleet, they will." Give up without fighting was the biggest mistake the aliens would ever make. They thought their advanced technology made them invincible. But they had never faced an enemy that prepared for the worst and refused to give up. The Zephyrian fleet appeared from behind Neptune like a deadly wall of metal and light. 200 alien ships moved in perfect formation, their hulls shining with strange energy fields and their weapons glowing with power. Each ship was 3 times larger than the biggest human vessel, and their technology was clearly far beyond anything Earth had ever built. Overlord Veltok stood on his command bridge, feeling confident as he watched the primitive human world. Through his sensors, scales had turned bright gold, the color of certain victory. Behind him, dozens of alien officers worked at control stations that looked more like art than machines. "Send the surrender message," Velthak ordered his communication officer. "Use their simple language so even these creatures can understand." The message that reached Earth was short and clear. "Primitive humans of the third planet, you are surrounded and outmatched. Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick. Resist, and you will suffer before you die. You have one of your hours to decide." Admiral Hoan Wu received the alien message through his quantum communicator, one of the few devices. That still worked, despite the jamming. He read it twice, then looked around at his officers on the space station's command deck. Lieutenant Yunji looked scared, but Captain Minho was already checking his weapon systems. "Sir, what should we tell them?" asked communications officer. So Min.Hoon-Wu thought for a moment, then smiled grimly. "Tell them this: we are humans. We don't surrender." But instead of just sending words, the Admiral gave a different order that would echo across the galaxy for generations to come. "All ships, all stations, all weapons platforms," he announced on the emergency channel. "Execute Operation Sledgehammer. Fire everything we have." Across the entire solar system, human weapons began launching at the same instant, from hidden bases on asteroids, from ships disguised as space junk. From orbital platforms around every planet, thousands upon thousands of projectiles streaked toward the alien fleet. The weapons were not elegant or sophisticated, they were simple. Tungsten rods accelerated to incredible speeds by magnetic launchers, followed by nuclear warheads that had been built with old but reliable technology. Some were just chunks of metal and rock launched by mining equipment that had been converted into weapons. Overlord Velthak watched his sensors with growing shock as the barrage approached. "Activate shields," he screamed. "All ships, maximum defense." The Zephyrian energy shields flickered to life around their fleet, creating glowing barriers that had protected them against every enemy they had ever faced. Their technology was designed to stop advanced energy weapons, guided missiles, and sophisticated attack systems. But the human weapons were none of those things. The first tungsten rod struck the alien shields at enormous speed. The energy barriers, designed to deflect laser beams and plasma bolts, offered almost no resistance to simple chunks of metal moving at incredible velocity. The rods punched through the shields like they weren't even there and smashed into alien hulls. "Impossible," Velthok shouted as his flagship shook from multiple impacts. "Their weapons are primitive. Our shields should stop everything." Commander Rathek, his scales now pure white with terror, reported from his station. Sir, the kinetic projectiles are penetrating our defenses, and there are nuclear explosions everywhere. The nuclear warheads that followed the kinetic strike were even worse for the aliens. Their shields could absorb some of the energy, but there were simply too many explosions happening at once. Nuclear fire bloomed throughout the alien formation. As hundreds of warheads detonated simultaneously, Captain Dong Hayan, commanding the human destroyer group near Jupiter, watched the battle through his telescope. "Look at that," he said to his crew. "Their fancy shields can't stop a good old-fashioned rock thrown really, really hard." More than half the alien fleet was destroyed in the first 10 minutes of the battle. Ships that had conquered dozens of worlds were torn apart by simple metal rods and nuclear fire. Surviving aliens tried to retreat, but human ships had been positioned to cut off their escape routes. Lieutenant Colonel Sujin led a squadron of human fighters in a pursuit attack against fleeing alien vessels. Her pilots used simple tactics that had worked for centuries: surround the enemy, attack from multiple directions, and don't let any of them escape. Target their engines, she ordered her squadron. We want some of them alive for questioning. The alien ships that tried to run found themselves chased by swarms of human fighters launching more kinetic weapons. Their advanced technology meant nothing when simple metal rods kept punching through their hulls and destroying their systems. Overlord Velthek's flagship was crippled and drifting. Half his crew was dead, and the other half was trying to keep the ship from exploding. Couldn't understand what had gone wrong. The humans were supposed to be primitive and weak, but they had destroyed his mighty fleet with weapons that looked like something from the ancient past. Send a distress signal to the Empire, he ordered weakly. Warn them about these creatures. But his communication officer looked up with hopeless eyes. Sir, our own jamming system is still active. Our signals cannot reach beyond this solar system. The aliens had trapped themselves with their own technology. They had cut off Earth's communications. They had also cut off their own ability to warn their empire about humanity's true strength. As more human ships closed in on the alien survivors, Velthek realized the terrible truth. They had blocked Earth's signals, but they couldn't block Earth's shells. Lieutenant Colonel Sujin floated through the damaged alien ship, her boots making soft magnetic clicks against the metal floor. The artificial gravity had failed, making it easier for her and her Marines to move through corridors that were built for creatures much taller than humans. Emergency lights flickered red and blue, casting strange shadows on walls covered with alien writing. "Stay alert," she whispered to her team through her helmet radio. "We don't know if any of them are still armed." Behind her, 6 human Marines followed carefully, their weapons ready. They had practiced boarding enemy ships many times, but this was their first time doing it for real. The alien ship smelled strange, like metal and something sweet that humans couldn't identify. They found the alien bridge after 10 minutes of searching. The room was huge, with curved walls and control stations that looked more like sculptures than machines. In the center, several alien survivors huddled together, their scales pale with fear and pain. Overlord Velthok lay against a broken console, green blood seeping from wounds on his long arms. His once-proud uniform was torn and burned, and his scales had turned the dull gray color of defeat. When he saw the humans enter, his large eyes widened with something that looked like disbelief. "How?" he whispered through a translation device that one of his officers held with shaking hands. "Your weapons are so simple. Your technology is centuries behind ours. How did you destroy us?" Sujin removed her helmet, showing her stern face to the alien commander. "We don't need fancy weapons to kill our enemies," she said coldly. "We just need the will to fight." The interrogation began immediately. The aliens, shocked by their complete defeat, answered every question without resistance. They showed the human star charts that revealed the locations of other Zephyrian bases throughout the outer solar system. They explained their empire's structure, their military tactics, and most importantly, their weaknesses. "There are supply bases on 17 asteroids beyond Neptune," Velthok admitted, his voice weak with pain and shame, "and a major staging area hidden in the Kuiper Belt. But you cannot reach them all. My empire will send reinforcements." Sujin smiled grimly. "We'll see about that. What the aliens didn't realize was that their own jamming technology had created a trap for themselves. Every distress signal they tried to send was blocked by their own communication barriers. The Zephyrian Empire had no idea that their advanced fleet had been completely destroyed. Major Sung-Ho received the alien intelligence data and immediately began planning attacks on the forward bases. From the captured ship, he coordinated strikes. Against every Zephyrian outpost in the solar system, human ships, loaded with more kinetic weapons and nuclear bombs, began hunting down alien facilities one by one. The pattern was always the same. Human forces would approach each base quietly, then unleash overwhelming firepower before the aliens could react. The Zephyrian defenders, trained to fight enemies with similar technology, had no defense against humanity's simple but devastating tactics. Base 7 is destroyed, reported Captain Nari from her destroyer. No alien survivors. Moving to Target Base 8. On the asteroid base designated as Target 12, Zephyrian Commander Kethrel watched his sensors in growing panic. As human ships approached, his base was supposed to be hidden and well defended, but somehow the primitive creatures had found him. Activate all defenses, he ordered his small crew. Prepare to repel invasion. But the humans didn't try to invade. Instead, they simply launched hundreds of tungsten rods at the asteroid base from a safe distance. The kinetic projectiles smashed through the base's energy shields and tore the facility apart in minutes. Kethrel had just enough time to wonder how his advanced civilization could be losing to such primitive tactics before the base exploded around him. Back on the captured flagship, Engineer Hyjin worked to understand the alien jamming technology. The system was incredibly complex, using quantum fields and energy patterns that human science was just beginning to understand. But like many advanced technologies, it had a simple weakness. Admiral, she reported to Hyan Wu through a secure laser communication link. I can shut down their jamming network, but it will take 6 hours to completely disable all their relay stations. Do it, Hyan Wu ordered immediately. It's time the galaxy heard from humanity. As Hyjin worked to break down the jamming system, human forces continued their systematic destruction of Zephyrian bases. Each victory revealed more information about alien technology and tactics, making the next attack even more effective. The aliens had made their crucial mistake through arrogance. They had assumed that superior technology automatically meant victory. But they had never faced an enemy that combined determination with overwhelming numbers of simple weapons. Lieutenant Jin Wu, piloting a fighter loaded with nuclear warheads, watched the final alien base explode on his screen. It's the last one, he reported to his squadron leader. All Zephyrian forces in our solar system have been eliminated. The cleanup was thorough and brutal. Every alien ship, every base, every piece of Zephyrian equipment was either destroyed or captured. The empire that had conquered 17 star systems had been completely wiped out in humanity's first stellar war. And they had done it using weapons that the aliens considered primitive. As the jamming field finally collapsed, human communications burst back to life across the solar system. But by then, there were no living Zephyrians left to hear the signals. They had tried so hard to block, the price of their arrogance had been total destruction. The moment the alien jamming field collapsed, Earth's communications exploded back to life like a dam bursting. Radio signals, data transmissions, and messages that had been blocked for days suddenly flooded across the solar system and beyond. Admiral Hyan Wu stood in his command center, watching as his communication officers worked frantically to send humanity's first message to the galaxy. This is Admiral Hyan Wu of the Korean Space Command, speaking for United Earth, he said. Into the transmitter, his voice steady and strong. We are here, we are armed, we are not afraid. Any species that threatens humanity will face the same fate as the Zephyrians. The message was broadcast on every frequency, in every direction, using the most powerful transmitters humanity possessed. Within hours, it was racing toward distant star systems at the speed of light, carrying news of humanity's victory to civilizations that had never heard of Earth. Captain Nari, commanding the monitoring station at Alpha Centauri, was among the first to detect responses. Her sensors picked up signals from multiple directions as alien civilizations throughout the local galaxy began reacting to humanity's announcement. Admiral, she reported through the restored communication network. We're receiving incoming transmissions from at least 12 different star systems. But sir, these aren't threats or demands for surrender. They're requesting peaceful contact and offering trade agreements. The effect of humanity's victory was spreading faster than anyone had expected. Word traveled through galactic communication networks that a primitive species had completely destroyed a Zephyrian, its advanced fleet using simple kinetic weapons and nuclear explosives. Civilizations that had feared the Zephyrian Empire for centuries were suddenly very interested in talking to the humans who had defeated them so thoroughly. Commander Jahun from Earth's Intelligence Division brought more surprising news to Admiral L. Hyun Woo. Sir, we're intercepting Zephyrian military communications from their home systems. Their remaining fleets are withdrawing from 3 different star systems and redirecting toward easier targets. They're calling Earth too dangerous to approach. The psychological impact of the defeat was enormous. The Zephyrian Empire, which had built its reputation on technological superiority and easy victories, had been humiliated by creatures they considered primitive. Their confidence was shattered, and other species in the galaxy took notice. General Boyram received reports from human scouts throughout the outer solar system. The wreckage of the alien fleet was being salvaged by human engineering teams, who were learning valuable lessons from the advanced technology. But more importantly, the victory had given humanity something it had never possessed before: respect from the galactic community. The alien technology is fascinating, reported Chief Engineer Tae Hayan as he examined captured Zephyrian equipment. But it's also fragile and overly complex. Their energy shields are powerful against sophisticated weapons, but they have obvious weak points that simple kinetic attacks can exploit. This discovery would change human military thinking forever. While other species pursued increasingly complex weapons and defenses, humanity would focus on reliable, simple systems that worked under any conditions. Sometimes the old ways were better than the new ones. 3 months after the battle, Lieutenant Wujin stood on the observation deck of the newly rebuilt Titan research station, watching as human construction ships worked on something that would have been impossible. Before the war, Earth's first interstellar vessel, the ship was called the Kesk Incheon, named after a Korean city that had survived many invasions throughout history. It was not the largest or most advanced ship humans could build, but it was tough, reliable, and armed with the same kinetic weapons that had destroyed the Zephyrian fleet. "Where will it go first?" asked Lieutenant Soman, who had fought in the space battle and was now assigned to the interstellar program. "Proxima Centauri," Wujin replied. "We received an invitation from the Centaurian Republic. They want to discuss a military alliance against the Zephyrians." The galaxy had changed dramatically in just a few months. Species that had cowered before Zephyrian might were now forming alliances with humanity. The humans had proven that advanced technology could be defeated by determination, good tactics, and overwhelming firepower. On the bridge of the KESC Incheon, Captain Dong Hyun prepared for humanity's first journey to another star. The ship's hull bore a simple inscription in both Korean and English. Their arrogance blocked the signal but not the shells. As the great ship activated its newly captured alien faster-than-light drive, Captain Dong Hyun thought about the battle that had changed everything. The Zephyrians had tried to cut Earth off from the galaxy, thinking it would make humans weak and helpless. Instead, it had forced humanity to rely on their greatest strengths: adaptability, determination, and the refusal to surrender no matter how hopeless things seemed. The first reports from the KESC Incheon arrived 6 months later. The Centaurian Republic had not only welcomed human contact, but had also shared intelligence about other hostile species in the galaxy. More importantly, they had requested human military advisors to help them develop better defenses against future threats. General Boram, now promoted to head of Earth's new interstellar defense force, smiled as she read the reports. "The aliens thought they were isolating us," she said to Admiral Hanwoo. "Instead, they forced us to become stronger than we ever imagined possible." Humanity had learned a valuable lesson from their first galactic war. Sometimes the best response to a sophisticated threat was not sophistication, but simple, overwhelming force applied with intelligence and determination. The galaxy had tried to silence Earth's voice, but they couldn't silence Earth's will to survive and fight back.